What's going on, guys? Back at it again with another Isobel build for you guys here on the channel. This one I am calling the Sharpshooter. The reason why I'm calling her the Sharpshooter is because, as you guys can see right in front of you, she is a bow build, and a fantastic one at that. I really liked this build specifically for her, simply because as an archer, she is able to stay out of the way for the most part, and stay out of trouble. Up close and personal type of builds typically have a problem with survivability, and that necessarily wasn't the case with this specific build. I really thoroughly enjoyed this one, guys, not to mention she deals a pretty decent amount of damage to boot. So with that being said, I'm very excited to jump into this one, guys. If you are too, do me a huge favor, drop a like on this video. Also subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed, because it really does help this channel grow. So enough yapping for me, guys. Let's go ahead and jump right into this. Alright, guys, so I'm going to be starting off with her Breton passives, because there is aspects of this that actually influence the amount of damage that she can do, right? So it's called Enchanted, and basically what it does is that it decreases ability cooldown by 3% and damage taken by 3%. The damage taken isn't as big of a deal for this specific build. As I said in the intro, they ranged builds typically just stay out of the way out of combat, so they typically stay alive for a lot longer. So it's not really a huge deal, but if she is in a situation where she's getting attacked, that 3% damage taken reduction is just that much more imperative, right? But where this really shines is the fact that the ability cooldown is also reduced by 3%, allowing her to have her skills up faster, therefore being able to dish out more DPS because of her skills. This is a great one for this specific build, guys. I'm really excited to jump into the skills. With that being said, the number 1 slot is actually Piercing Arrow. Isobel DPS plants a masterfully aimed arrow in an enemy's vital spot, dealing 10,365 physical damage. The cooldown is also at a 7.8 seconds, allowing her to really deal a lot of damage with this specific skill. Has a low cooldown and a high damage output, making this a fantastic skill to have slotted, period, if you're going with a bow build. Fantastic skill, guys, highly recommended. In the number 2 slot, I have Sunbrand. Sunbrand reads as Isobel DPS hurls a blazing ball of fire at an enemy, dealing 10,365 flame damage on impact and an additional 7,768 flame damage over 8 seconds. This is one of those types of skills that I really thoroughly enjoy, because it double dips in damage, right? It deals an initial 10,365 flame damage, but also on top of that, it adds on an additional 7,768 flame damage over a period of 8 seconds. So it's a flat damage and a damage over time, which makes this skill absolutely fantastic. Also, it has an average cooldown, slightly less than average because of her Breton passive, but an average nonetheless cooldown of 11.6 seconds, making the effectiveness of this skill just that much better, in my opinion. In the number 3 slot, we have a little bit of crowd control, and that is Trickshot. Isobel fires a burst of arrows to pin enemies in front of them, dealing 5,183 physical damage and immobilizing them for 4 seconds. This skill, I think, is very important, because if she's in a situation where she's getting attacked, having the ability to immobilize enemies, allowing her to dish out some damage to them for those 4 seconds, really does help with her survivability. Not to mention, it'll allow you to also focus on said enemies, therefore allowing you to help her stay alive as well. But it's not just a utility skill, because it also deals a moderate amount of damage at 5,183 physical damage. The only real downfall that I see with this specific skill is the fact that the cooldown is at a slightly higher than average at 15.5 seconds. And that is with the Breton passive too, so it is little bit high, but still regardless, with her rotation, she's not really going to be attacked anyways, but with her rotation, she deals out a lot of damage regardless. In the number 4 slot, we have another damage over time ability, Viper's Bite. Isobel Valois shoots an arrow covered in Bandari poison at an enemy, dealing 5,183 poison damage and an additional 15,544 poison damage over 8 seconds. This skill, staggered with this skill, is absolutely fantastic. They both have the same amount of cooldown as well at 11.6 seconds, so it will overlap a little bit, but allowing the ability to always and consistently have a damage over time active at any given point. This, having it being staggered, is absolutely wonderful in my opinion. However, for the majority of the time that it's active, it will be stacked up on top of each other for about half the amount of time, allowing you to have a significant amount of DPS for those a few seconds. But again, you will always have a damage over time active because of these two skills being staggered. Absolutely fantastic, guys. The damage over time on this specific skill is absolutely insane at 15,544 poison damage for those 8 seconds. Great skill, absolutely fantastic, highly recommend. In the final skill slot, we have Beam of Reproach. Isobel Valois bathes an enemy in a beam of sunlight, immediately dealing 5,183 magic damage and healing allies nearby for 4,350 health. The residual light will then continue to heal allies near the enemy for 1,087 health for 2 seconds over 8 seconds. This skill, I decided to slot this in this position mainly because, as I've said before, as a ranged character, she really won't be in combat or getting attacked, if you will, as often as she would be as if she was an up close and personal build. Therefore, survivability isn't really a top priority. It is still important, which is why I still have this slotted, but it is not as important as, say, if you were a dual wield or something like that, right? Or a two-handed, etc, etc. So because of that, I decided to put in Beam of Reproach because it deals a little bit of damage of 5,183 magic damage, but it also acts as a heal, which gives her a quick burst heal of 4,350. Also on top of that, a heal over time of 1,087 every 2 seconds for 8 seconds. So it's only 4 ticks of 1,087, so the heal isn't massive, but it does help. But if she was to get into trouble, she would probably rely more on you to help her stay alive in terms of heals or maybe added DPS, etc, etc, because this isn't a massive heal, but it does exactly what I need it to do, and that's what's important. In terms of her ultimate, Baneslayer. Isobel Valois channels their energy and conjures a weapon made of sunlight before striking downward, dealing 10,365 magic damage to all enemies in front of them. Enemies damaged by Baneslayer have particles remaining on them for 10 seconds that detonate for 5,183 magic damage when a player deals damage to them. This is an absolutely fantastic skill when it works, right? I'm not saying it's broken or bugged or anything like that, but there is a weird quirk with this skill where, unlike Bastion, whenever he uses his skill, he goes through a channel time, but if you manage to kill all of the enemies before his channel time is over, he cancels the channel time, effectively saving his ultimate. That's not the case with this specific ultimate with her. When you kill all of the enemies while she's still in channel time, she will still use this ultimate, effectively wasting it, which is really sad to think about because this is a fantastic skill otherwise. It deals a pretty good amount of damage initially at 10,365 magic damage, but it also adds an additional 5,183 when you hit them for 10 seconds, which is absolutely fantastic damage capabilities for anybody who has this active on an enemy. Great ultimate, but that channel time situation really kind of bothers me in my opinion, making it less than optimal, but still regardless, great ultimate nonetheless. With that being said, let's check out her gear. In terms of gear, I like to build my companions in the same way that I build my own characters. What I mean by that is simple. Whenever I build my own characters, I go with 2 5-piece sets and a 2-piece monster sets. Monster sets aren't really a thing for companions, so we'll just call it a 2-piece. Right, so for the first 2-piece set, we are going with medium, aggressive for the head and shoulders. Aggressive increases damage done by 1.7% per piece equipped, assuming you have purple equipped. And of course, medium is important because in the medium armor passive, as you can see, it effectively affects the amount of damage you do, because every piece that you have slotted increases your damage output or your damage done by 1% per piece equipped, which is very, very important. So medium is important and is essentially the lifeblood of this build, alongside with aggressive in terms of damage dealing. With that, because of that, for the first 5-piece set, I also went with aggressive in medium as well, because again, with 7 pieces of medium equipped, she deals 7% right off the bat of increased damage just because of her just because of the armor passive. But on top of that, an additional 1.7% is added on top of that for each additional piece that she has equipped. So that's 1.7 times 7, whatever that ends up being, additionally on top of that 7%, which is an absolute insane amount of damage done increase with this current setup. For the final 5-piece set, we have Shattering. Shattering increases penetration by 1,300 per piece, assuming you have purple, of course. That's for all 3 jewelries. The weapon is considered a 2-piece set, therefore increasing the armor penetration by 2,600, increasing penetration by a pretty substantial amount, and this attached or alongside with the aggressive trait and medium of your actual gear itself, it ends up being a fantastic setup in my personal opinion. With that being said, let's go ahead and go over to the house and check out her fashion. Alright guys, in terms of fashion, very simple and straightforward. I do have a costume equipped on her called Corseted Riding Outfit. Not just that, but also the dyes are Marble White, Covenant Blue, and Grot Bark Brown. I think overall that looks great. In terms of weapon, I do have just the normal bow, it looks like. I think this was supposed to be a different bow, but it is what it is. And in terms of dyes, I have Grot Bark Brown, Covenant Blue, and Marble White. Because of that, this actually looks pretty fantastic in my personal opinion. Let me know down in the comment section down below what you guys think of her actual fashion. With that being said, let's see if we can go and solo a world boss. And there you have it, guys. The sharpshooter build is complete here on the channel. I thoroughly enjoyed this one, guys. I really like archer builds for companions, specifically because they typically stay out of the way, and because of that, they're able to stay alive for longer. This is a good build for anybody who really just likes having companions around, having a lot of damage output, while simultaneously having them survive, which is ultimately the most important part, because if they're dead, they can't dish out DPS, of course. So let me know down in the comment section what you guys thought of this build. Very, very, very much enjoyed this one, guys. If you did too, do me a huge favor, drop a like on this video. Also, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, because it really does help this channel grow. So with that being said, catch you guys in the next one. Deuces.